Today, I will be explaining emotional response of anger and fear in context of borderline personality disorder, because I think that very often these two are actually misunderstood or confused. People who are experiencing borderline personality disorder, they can display anger and rage that are unpredictable and very intense. When we observe other people getting angry, or when we notice that we getting angry, we can see the build-up of emotion. However, when someone is experiencing borderline personality disorder, they can display this really sudden outburst of anger. So the anger can appear very suddenly, but also it can disappear as suddenly as it appeared. But there's also a group of people who are actually terrified of expressing anger, and this is because they associate certain negative beliefs and connotations with this emotion. So for instance, they might believe that anger is dangerous, that anger is not acceptable. They might believe that if they will express some anger, then they will be exposed to people rejecting them. Marsha Linehan, who's an expert in dialectical behavior therapy, which is the DBT that we mainly use to help people who struggle with borderline personality disorder, she's using this amazing metaphor to describe how these people are actually experiencing emotions. She compares them to people who suffer 90% burns to their body. She said that we can imagine that people who are experiencing borderline personality disorder, they are actually lacking the emotional skin. When someone is experiencing third-degree burns to their body, they experiencing with every movement, with every touch, with every blow of air, excruciating pain. We can compare this to how people with borderline personality disorder are experiencing emotions. So that means they're gonna be hypersensitive to what they see, to what we say, what we don't say, what we do, what we don't do. Being hypersensitive in this way can be extremely exhausting. And also what we can witness is that people who experience borderline personality disorder, they really struggle to regulate these strong emotions, and therefore we can witness this outburst of anger and frustration. Same as they can experience this extreme anger and frustration, they will also experience quite extreme enthusiasm and happiness. So at times they might just find themselves being swift between these extreme emotions, with actually having sense that they have very little control over that. So you can imagine how exhausting that must be for them. Let's think of an example of someone who's maybe feeling under pressure and they're experiencing a lot of stress at work because of certain deadlines and certain projects that they need to complete at work. And then as a result of that, they feel like they start having this sense that they're losing control. And that actually might be enough for them to have outbursts of anger and frustration at one of their co-workers, which might seem quite random to everyone else. So it might be that the person was actually abused when they were children. Then for years they suffered abuse, but then eventually maybe when they grew up, when they became teenagers, they realized that actually they can stop, or maybe they can delay, they can prevent some of the abuse with anger and with aggression. Or maybe even happen that when they express the aggression at the abuser, the abuse actually completely stopped after many years of suffering. So now whenever they detect any sort of sense of hostility in other person, they might instantly respond with that similar defense to protect themselves, to protect the vulnerabilities within them. Although the current situation might not require that level of anger, frustration, maybe there is no need for all this aggression and this defensiveness, but their traumatized brain is hypersensitive and is trying to protect them from potential danger. Therefore, sometimes we might see these emotional responses that to us might seem as exaggerated. Another example that can well represent how people with borderline personality disorder are experiencing emotions, it is in situations when they're predicting that someone's gonna abandon them. So in this situation like that, They might have this outburst of anger, but the actual emotion that they're feeling underneath the anger, it is fear. When we fear something, we become very vulnerable. So here the anger, it is protecting actually their vulnerability. If you're suspecting that someone who just became very angry is experiencing some sort of fear of maybe being abandoned, it might be actually much more helpful for you to express them compassion and understanding rather than arguing with them rationally. Another really interesting fact about anger in context of borderline personality disorder is that normally we experience anger in situations when we have sense of something injustice happening to us, right? And the reason why we have this sense of injustice, because we have sense of self. So we know what our rights are, we know what our self is, what we deserve, what we don't deserve, what we want, what we don't want. However, people who are experiencing borderline personality disorder, they very often actually lack that sense of self, of who they are. Therefore, we can say that the anger that they're gonna be displaying is not gonna be because of sense of injustice, but because of this sense that someone, for instance, gonna abandon them because of the fear of abandonment, or because of fear of potential danger. If you enjoyed this video, then please like it, subscribe, and if this video triggered for you any interesting reflections, please let me know about it in a comment section, and I'm gonna see you in the next one then. Thank you. Bye bye.